Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Nah.
Today we're going to be taking a look at some really interesting ideas from Dr. Tara Brach,
Okay.
a clinical psychologist and meditation teacher.
Right.
And she kind of brings together Buddhist psychology and Western thought to address a pretty fundamental question, the question of why we suffer.
Yeah.
And, you've provided us with an excerpt from one of her talks, and we're ready to dive in.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so,
I think Dr. Brock's approach is really insightful.
okay.
She starts by pointing out something that I think a lot of us don't even realize is actually shaping our experience.
What's that?
This idea of perceiving ourselves as separate
Separate.
from everything and everyone else.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, feeling lonely.
Right.
It's something even deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
She refers to it as a primal mood of fear.
A primal mood of fear.
Like a deep instinctual sense of vulnerability
Okay.
that comes from experiencing ourselves as, kind of isolated and endangered.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're walking around with this constant sense of trouble,
Yeah.
even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Exactly.
Mm.
And she even quotes William James, who said, all religions begin with the cry, help.
Wow.
And, I think that really speaks to that fundamental human experience of,
Yeah.
Feeling alone and needing something outside of ourselves to kind of make it okay.
Okay, that's really making me think now.
Yeah.
So how does this primal fear actually show up in our lives?
Well, Dr. Bross uses this really interesting analogy to explain it.
Okay.
She compares the ego to a spacesuit.
Oh, a spacesuit.
Yeah. Imagine
Right.
we're all kind of suited up trying to navigate this world that feels threatening.
Right.
And that suit becomes our primary way of interacting.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So all of our, defense mechanisms, our
Right.
striving,
Mm-hmm.
our anxiety,
Yeah.
it's like we're constantly on high alert,
Yeah.
ready to fend off danger, even if there isn't any.
It's like our ancestors trying to meditate on rocks.
Oh.
They couldn't just relax and bliss out.
Yeah.
Survival depended on them constantly being vigilant,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And in a way, we've kind of inherited that wiring.
Exactly.
It's like that saying she uses Velcro for pain,
Yeah.
Teflon for pleasure.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
We're wired to lash onto the negative
Yeah,
and just let the positive stuff kind of slide right off.
absolutely.
And because of that negativity bias, our spacesuit self,
I love that.
that's a good one. It's constantly scanning for threats,
Mm-hmm.
replaying past hurts,
Yeah,
worrying about,
Yeah.
future problems.
exactly.
No wonder that caffeinated squirrel in our mind
Right.
never seems to want to settle down.
I know.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Brach suggests that this primal fear, combined with our negativity bias,
Mm-hmm.
can actually trap us in a cycle of suffering.
Right.
So it's like we get stuck in this loop of fearful thoughts
Yeah.
and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of reinforces this whole story we've been telling ourselves. Like, I'm flawed. I'm alone.
Exactly. And
That's a great way to put it.
it disconnects us from our own sense of wholeness
Yeah.
and keeps us from experiencing genuine connection
Yeah. And love.
and love,
It's a real tragedy
Yeah.
when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to unpack here,
We do.
but I think this is a really good starting point.
It is a good starting point.
Yeah.
Just to kind of understand that foundation
Right.
of this primal fear and how it kind of permeates
Yeah.
so much of our experience.
It really does.
Okay, well, let's take a break,
Wait.
and we'll come back and explore some more of Dr. Brach's ideas.
Sounds good.
So it's like we're wired for survival,
Right.
But in today's world, that ancient wiring might actually be working against us. It's like we're wearing spacesuits to a picnic.
Yeah.
We're protected, but we can't really fully enjoy the experience.
That's such a great analogy.
And what's interesting is that Dr. Brach,
Yeah.
she doesn't just leave us stuck in that negativity loop.
Right.
She actually offers kind of a more hopeful perspective.
She does.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Well, she shares this really heartwarming story
Okay.
about a little girl who's drawing a picture of God.
Ah.
And, the teacher says, but nobody knows what God looks like.
Great.
And the little girl says very confidently, well, they will in a minute.
Oh my God.
Isn't that great?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like such a beautiful reminder
Yeah.
of that inherent wholeness that we have as children.
Right.
They haven't fully learned to distrust their experience
Yeah.
or doubt their connection to something bigger.
It really speaks to what the poet John O'Donohue calls our wildness,
Wildness.
the wildness of God.
Okay.
He suggests that we've kind of forgotten.
This essential part of ourselves.
So how do we lose touch with that wildness?
Right.
What causes us to cover over that sense of wholeness
Yeah.
and connection?
Well, Dr. Brack explores several factors
Okay.
that contribute to what she calls the trance of separation.
Okay, I've heard that term a few times now.
Yeah.
What exactly does she mean by the trance of separation?
It's like we're hypnotized
Got
by
it.
this belief
Yeah.
that we're fundamentally alone, flawed,
Yeah.
and lacking.
Okay.
And this trance shows up in so many ways,
Right.
in how we compare ourselves to others,
Yeah.
how we chase external validation, how we feel isolated,
Right.
even when we're in a crowded room.
So it's not just a thought.
Yeah.
It's like a whole way of being in the world.
Exactly.
Almost like a filter that colors
Yeah.
everything we see and experience.
Exactly. And this trance has many sources.
Okay.
Part of it is genetic, simply how our brains are wired.
Right.
But a huge part is also environmental, influenced by our upbringing and our culture.
When you talk about like the media's constant barrage
Right.
of negativity and fear,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder if like our modern world is almost designed
It's a good question.
to keep us in this trance of separation.
Think about how social media often plays on our insecurities.
Oh, yeah.
And fuels our need for approval.
Right.
And then there's the relentless pressure to achieve and succeed,
Yeah.
which constantly reinforces that feeling that
Yeah.
we're not enough.
And I imagine our early experiences,
Oh, absolutely.
especially within our families,
Right.
play a huge role too.
Dr. Brack emphasizes the importance of early attachment
Okay.
and how it shapes our sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
When a child feels seen,
Yeah.
understood,
Right.
and loved for who they are,
Hmm.
it helps to soothe that primal fear
Okay.
and foster a sense of belonging.
So those early experiences of being mirrored
Yeah.
and validated
Mm-hmm.
are crucial
They are.
for developing like a secure foundation for who we become.
Exactly. But if those needs aren't met,
Right.
it can create a deep sense of lack and unworthiness
Wow.
that we might carry with us for years.
So this is all starting to make a lot of sense. It's like we're piecing together a map
Right.
of how we got here,
Mm-hmm.
how we ended up in this trance of separation.
Exactly.
But what I'm really curious about is how do we get out?
Well, the first step is recognizing that we're in it.
Okay, so awareness is key.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Once we start to see how the trance operates in
Yeah.
our lives, we can begin to challenge those limiting beliefs
Okay.
and cultivate a new way of relating to ourselves and the world.
And how do we actually do that?
All right.
What are some concrete steps
Yeah.
we can take to start waking up?
Well, Dr. Brock offers a variety of practices.
Okay.
But it all starts with cultivating presence,
Okay.
with learning to pay attention to our experience in a kind and compassionate way.
So it's not about trying to like force ourselves
Right.
to think positive or ignore
Yeah.
our difficult emotions.
Yeah.
It's more about simply being present
Exactly.
with whatever arises.
That's a really important distinction.
Okay.
It's about learning to meet our experience with curiosity and openness rather than judgment
Yeah.
and resistance.
This reminds me of the concept of mindfulness,
Yes.
which Dr. Brack talks about a lot in her work.
Mindfulness is about paying attention
Okay.
to the present moment without judgment. It's about noticing our thoughts, our feelings, and sensations
Yeah.
without getting swept away by them.
So how does mindfulness actually help us
Right.
break free from this trance of separation?
Well, when we practice mindfulness,
Yeah.
we start to see that our thoughts and feelings are not facts. They're simply transient experiences that come and go.
Oh, yeah.
We learn to create space around them, to observe them without getting caught in their grip.
So it's about developing a new relationship with our internal experience.
Right.
Almost like becoming a compassionate observer
Yeah.
of our own minds.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And as we cultivate this mindful awareness,
Yeah.
we start to notice like the spaces between our thoughts, those moments of stillness and quiet
Yeah.
where we can kind of connect with
Yeah.
a deeper sense of peace and well-being.
That sounds incredibly liberating.
It does.
But it takes time
yeah.
and practice
Right.
to develop that kind of mindful awareness.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment
No,
overnight.
it's a gradual process
about-
of learning to pay attention,
Yeah.
to be present
Yeah.
with ourselves and our experience, in a new way.
So it's a journey.
Exactly, not a destination.
And it's a journey that's available to all of us.
Wow. This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Yes.
We've covered so much ground
We have.
from that primal fear of separation.
Yeah. To the negativity bias.
Yeah.
The idea of the ego as a spacesuit.
Mm-hmm.
We've even explored how our early experiences
Right.
and our culture
Yeah.
can reinforce this feeling of being separate
Mm-hmm.
and incomplete.
And we've touched on the possibility of waking up from this trance
Yeah.
through practices like mindfulness.
What's really exciting is that this isn't just theoretical.
Right.
It's about recognizing
Yeah.
how these patterns actually play out
Exactly.
in our daily lives.
And finding ways to shift our perspective.
So it's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually.
Right.
It's about actually applying them to our own experience.
That's right. It's about recognizing those moments when we're caught in the trance.
Okay.
When we're comparing ourselves, feeling inadequate,
Yeah.
or seeking validation outside ourselves.
And then gently, with compassion,
Right.
bringing ourselves back to the present moment.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. But I'm curious, what are some practical ways that we can start to weave mindfulness into our daily lives?
It feels a bit overwhelming to think about changing, such deep-seated patterns.
It's important to remember that mindfulness isn't about adding another task to your to-do list.
Right.
It's about finding small moments throughout the day to pause, to tune into your senses, and to simply be present with whatever is happening.
So it could be as simple as like taking a few deep breaths
Exactly.
before checking emails.
Or really savoring that first cup of coffee in the morning.
Okay. It's about bringing awareness to those everyday activities that we usually just rush through on autopilot.
You might also find it helpful
Okay.
to set aside a few minutes each day for a more formal mindfulness practice, like meditation.
Are there specific types of meditation that are particularly helpful?
There are many different approaches.
But practices like loving kindness meditation can be especially powerful.
Loving kindness meditation.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, it involves cultivating feelings of warmth and compassion.
Okay.
First towards yourself, and then extending those feelings outwards to others.
I can see how that could be really helpful.
Yeah.
Encountering that negativity bias.
Exactly.
And fostering a sense of connection.
It's like we're actively rewiring our brains to focus on kindness and care instead of fear and judgment.
It's about remembering that we're not alone in this human experience.
Everyone struggles with these feelings of separation and inadequacy at times.
And by cultivating compassion for ourselves and others, it's like we start to chip away at those walls that keep us isolated.
It's almost like we're replacing that spacesuit with a more comfortable and breathable garment.
Yeah.
Something that allows us to move through the world with more ease and connection. And remember waking up from this trance.
Right.
It isn't a one-time event.
No.
It's an ongoing process.
It is.
Okay.
There will be moments when you fall back into old patterns.
Right.
When the fear and separation creep back in.
But with practice, you'll become more adept at recognizing those moments.
Exactly.
And choosing a different path.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about and explore.
Me too.
Thank you for guiding us through these complex ideas.
Absolutely.
In such an accessible and insightful way.
It's been a pleasure.
I have a feeling I'll be revisiting these concepts for a long time to come.
And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope this exploration has sparked some new insights.
It inspired you to continue exploring the power of mindfulness.
And your own life.